In this video, we will look at 3 endgame examples going from beginner, intermediate, then advanced level. These examples are taken from Tata still, the tournament held in Wijk aan Zee in the Netherlands. The games are between Carlsen versus Tari, world number 1 versus Norway number 2, MVL versus Firouzja, French number 1 versus world junior number 1. And finally, the advanced endgame Caruana, world number 2 versus Forrest, Dutch number 2. Magnus Carlsen against Iron Tari. Rook takes g4 check has just been played. King f5. Rook across, king takes e6. Rook and 2 against rook and 2. Just want to show you a nice way for black to draw this. Just bring the king round, and once the rooks come off, you just play king d8. Don't even move these 2 pawns because there's a nice trick coming up. A nice technique. Push, push. You can see Tari's just sidestepping the king. And here we go. King in the corner, because here, and then that will be stalemate. If it's 2 against 2, notice white's king is much better than black's king. Don't touch these pawns. Just keep moving. Trade, and then king hides in the corner. And then Tari was able to draw against Carlsen. Stalemate in the top left. Maxime Verchier-Lagrave has white, Alireza Firouzja has black. Knight c4 has just been played. Black takes this knight, take, rook takes rook, queen takes, bishop e7. It makes sense, black wants to go after this pawn, so he just retreats the bishop. Now the queen, bishop and the rook attack this point. Queen b3 played by MVL. In this position, black played a really nice move to achieve liquidation. That means getting a lot of pieces off to ease the pressure. If black plays take, white might have some uncomfortable pressure. Just want to talk about that now. After rook a2, a5, 5 each. But this rook is actually very awkwardly placed, so I'm very pleased for Firouzja to go for this cool way to liquidate. The king is going to come in. g4 can be played and get these pawns rolling. By this I mean if king here, king f7, king here, can't play e5 trying to swap it off, f5. This is such a problem. Rook cannot move. White is probably winning this. So a cool way is black could play h5 and then king f7. Or if we just get the king closer, king, king, now you can go g4. This is a bit uncomfortable. King here, king e4. Is this key pawn move, which means this rook can't move. That's why I was just mentioning a few moves ago, if black can get h5 in, just to control this square. Back to the main point of this liquidation example. After queen b3, black now played a really cool move, starting with queen e1 check. Got to block with the rook. Pause the video now or let it run. Can you find a really nice way for black to just liquidate the pressure? The cool move is queen takes e3 check, rather than just retreating the queen somewhere. This does it for black. Take and then bishop c5, pinning the queen to the king. A draw was agreed here. Rightly so. 5 pawns each in a rook ending. Caruana against Forrest. Rook takes a3 is being played. Let's quickly evaluate this rook ending, just in terms of pawns. 4 pawns for white, 4 pawns for black. Equal. But no, this pawn is weak. Maybe the king can find a way to get it. Get these pawns rolling. White might be winning, but black has this option. In rook endgames, it's good to look for pawn quality rather than pawn quantity. If this pawn can start marching, then it is better than these pawns at the moment, because it's passed. Rook b2 played, f5 played by Caruana, but I just want to show you this impossible rook endgame line. I've never seen an idea like this, because you just let black push his pawn and then you come back and get it. f5, this led to a draw, which I will show you soon, but rook a8 is the amazing move. So h5 check is not possible, you take it. So one sample line is if you go rook g2 check and then f5. It looks dangerous, and you can understand why Caruana didn't go for it. This is very similar to what happened in the game, but the point is, your king is now on a different square after this check. And you just come back with the rook. I mean, this rook move was useful anyway, just to control squares on the back. If the check wasn't given, this pawn would have pushed. You go rook a1 now. h4, you go rook here. And then you pick it up. So after rook a1, got a couple of threats, king takes, and then across. So you may go rook g3, and if take, h4, here, h3, but then f5. And then the king can actually come back. So this is such a cool idea. You play a useful rook move, but then when the guy actually pushes, you just come back. And then you come back. And then the king was here, it was useful anyway, it's going to take the pawn, then you can actually start rolling these. In a position like this pawn isn't actually going to become a queen. Notice the king can come forward and actually grab this pawn. Then this pawn becomes a pass pawn. So white's two options to push. Once this pawn disappears, white is completely winning. These two pawns can push to create a pass pawn in center. So amazing idea. In the game, f5 was played, which looks winning as well, to be honest. f5, rook g2 check, king f4. But after h5, actually maybe isn't winning because this rook should be back here. Oh yeah, pretty funny. If rook here, that is mate. All of a sudden, absolutely crazy. Yikes, I've just seen it. Yeah, that's a weird tactic all of a sudden in a rook ending. That's why king takes e4 needs to be played. h4, rook a1, h3, and then slide the rook across. So then this king, if it goes there, h2, but also it can come after this. Rook h1, push, just as a distraction. Even better, I mean, Jordan is going for pawn qualities, getting after this pawn instead of this, because the king can't come back. I mean, that's so accurate. Get this and then come back for the loner on b6. Amazing. And then back. So we've got a small repetition here. Check, here, and then Jordan has even got the king active, and when the king is here, I mean, these pawns are going nowhere. And he's got his eyes on this, and he's protecting this. He's protecting this pawn on h2, I mean. So excellent play from Forrest in this rook endgame. Miracle save, really. Push, take, push, take, draw. What a save. What a save. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Why not give this video a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time? Make sure you hit the bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.